Pregnant woman discovered her husband's and mother-in-law's plot. She packed her suitcase and planned to stay at her best friend's house, who was a doctor. Before leaving, she intentionally left behind a camera. She wanted to see what else her husband and mother-in-law were hiding from her. What the woman didn't expect was that just as she left the house, her husband's affair partner arrived at the house. Her mother-in-law was closer to her than to the woman herself. The woman and her best friend were furious when they saw the footage from the camera, but what they couldn't accept even more was what came next. They heard the husband say with his own mouth that the reason the woman had cancer was because he would add carcinogens to the woman's fertility treatments every time. She was also told that the child in her belly was actually the husband's and his affair partner's. The woman couldn't believe that her husband, who always showed love for her, could treat her this way, and she had been thinking that, even with cancer, she would risk her life to give birth to his only heir, despite his weak sperm. The woman, in anger, wanted to return home and expose the true faces of her husband and his family. Unexpectedly, she started hemorrhaging at that very moment. Her best friend hurriedly rushed the woman to the hospital. When the husband and mother-in-law heard about the child's complications, they hurried to the hospital. They anxiously waited outside the operating room. The doctor came out and informed the family that the patient's condition was critical, and asked them to decide whether to prioritize saving the woman or the child in her belly. Without hesitation, the husband and mother-in-law chose to prioritize saving the child in her belly. Little did they know that inside the operating room, the woman had already induced labor and removed the child. She even arranged for a courier to deliver the child's ashes to her husband's family shrine in 2 months. It turned out that the mother-in-law and husband planned to hold an ancestral ceremony for the child right after its birth in 2 months. They would hold an ancestral worship ceremony for him the moment he was born, and on the same day, they intended to have the husband and his affair partner get engaged. The woman walked out of the operating room. To deceive her mother-in-law and husband, the woman still faked a big belly. When the mother-in-law and husband saw that the child in her belly was fine, they excitedly thanked the woman's best friend. The woman couldn't hold back and pointed out that she had just heard in the operating room that the husband and mother-in-law had said they would prioritize saving the child in her belly. The husband panicked and explained that maybe the woman had misunderstood. The woman didn't want to speak to her husband and mother-in-law any longer, so she left with her best friend. As soon as the woman left, the mother-in-law and husband immediately revealed their true colors. They not only cursed that the cancer-stricken woman wouldn't survive childbirth, but also instructed the husband to send invitations for the child's birth. They planned to hold a grand ancestral ceremony for the child. Soon, the day of the woman's delivery arrived. Her best friend personally helped her deliver the baby. She walked out of the operating room and told the husband and mother-in-law that the child was fine, but the mother did not survive. The mother-in-law and husband began to fake mourning for the woman. The next moment, they immediately proposed to take the child home to hold the ancestral ceremony. The woman's best friend said the child was malnourished. The child needed to be observed in the hospital for a few hours. Later, she would personally deliver the child to the family shrine. After the husband and mother-in-law left for the shrine, the woman walked out of the operating room healthy. She was here to get her revenge on her husband and mother-in-law for plotting against her. It turned out that her husband's family was a famous local aristocratic family. Her husband was the only male heir in the current generation of the family. Her husband's 3 aunts all hoped he wouldn't have a son. That way, their grandson would be able to inherit the family fortune. And because of this, the mother-in-law and husband placed immense importance on the child in the woman's belly. The child's birth would mark the 10th generation of the family's head. This meant that the family legacy would continue for 1,000 years. The mother-in-law and husband invited many well-known local families to celebrate the child's birth. Unexpectedly, at that moment, a delivery man walked in. He said that the delivery was for the husband and required his signature. The husband felt confused. He was about to open the package, but the woman's mother-in-law stopped him, thinking it would bring bad luck to open a package from the woman on such an important day. Unbeknownst to them, the package contained the child's ashes. ashes. Soon, all the guests who had come to congratulate them had given their gifts. They asked to see the child. The mother-in-law asked the husband to check with the woman's best friend when the child could be delivered. Unexpectedly, just as the husband was about to call the woman's best friend, the door to the shrine opened. The woman, holding the child, and her best friend appeared before everyone. The husband and mother-in-law were shocked to see that the woman was still alive. They were extremely surprised. The other guests didn't find it strange that the woman appeared. They were solely focused on seeing the child the woman was holding, but the woman stopped them from uncovering the blanket. She said the child was weak and couldn't be exposed to the wind. The husband's aunts started to suspect the child's gender, but the mother-in-law confidently declared that it must be a boy. They officially began the ancestral ceremony. After all the relatives of the husband's family had finished paying their respects, the mother-in-law was about to drop blood to worship the ancestors for the newborn, and then add the child to the family genealogy. Just as the mother-in-law was about to pick up the genealogy, a gust of wind unexpectedly blew through. It not only blew the genealogy to the ground, but also knocked over the shrine's memorial plaques. The woman then tossed the child she was holding into the air. To everyone's surprise, the child was wrapped in paper money. The woman took off her coat, revealing the mourning clothes she wore underneath. She then took out the child's memorial plaque. The mother-in-law angrily demanded to know where the child had been hidden. The woman pointed to the package that her husband had left aside. She said the child was inside that package. The mother-in-law and husband were so shocked by the woman's words that they were left unable to stand. Sure enough, as the woman had said, inside was an urn filled with ashes. In fear, the husband dropped the urn on the ground, smashing it.